We'll go ahead and call this Ellis County Commission meeting to order. All those capable, please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call roll?
Commissioner Neil Younger,
Present.
Chair Nathan Liker,
Here.
Commissioner Michael Burgess.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay. The order of business. Any additions or changes, gentlemen?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. Moving on to the prior minutes. Everybody had a chance to read through those.
Yep. Everything looked good.
Looks good.
Okay. Moving on to our consent agenda.
All look
Any
good.
discussion?
No discussion.
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, items A through G.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay. Consent agenda is approved. At this time, are there any issues from people not on the order of business? Okay. Moving on. The monthly departmental report. Has everybody had a chance to read through that?
No comments for me.
Okay.
Me either.
Just one quick comment. The health department has listed in here their health fair next Saturday. So this coming Saturday. I'm sorry. I believe it's 22nd. So everybody paying attention, please try and attend that. Moving on. Okay. We'll have our enterprise fleet update.
Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Joseph Owens. I go by Joe Owens. I'm your guys' enterprise fleet client strategy manager. I am based out of Kansas City. Actually live in Topeka. My wife and I and our 4 kids just moved there last year. That's where we're originally from. So we moved back just to be a little bit closer to family. Plus, with my job being a work from home position and visiting clients, that gave me the ability to move back and be closer to family. So commissioners, thank you for your time. Darren had asked me to come give you guys a brief overview of the program and kind of where we're at and what it looks like. The committee has been great to work with. So thank you guys for allowing Enterprise to do this and help the fleet for the county and us manage it. So that kind of gets me started. If we want to, perfect, thank you, Darren. This is just a brief overview of your guys' fleet, high level. If we start at the top there, 65 total units in fleet, and this is an average. You guys have about 70 now, but just under $2 million of vehicles on lease or that you guys own that is managed by the county. And that's just small, light duty, and then some medium duty. It doesn't probably even cover some of your dump trucks or anything along that line. It's just small fleet style. If we look to the left under the manufacturer breakdown, you guys are agnostic to manufacturer, which is good, especially in the times we just came through with there being cutoffs and limited availability, the flexibility of the county to say, hey, we don't mind taking a Chevy or a Ram or whatever the case may be to make it work to get what you guys need to make sure that the job is done. If we look kind of in the middle there under the model year analysis, the county has done a great job of getting new vehicles infleeted. I mean, your guys' average age right now is 3.6 years old, which is awesome. Not only is that helping you guys reduce maintenance, we're not having to maintenance older vehicles, safer vehicles for the employees of the county, and just overall employee satisfaction, driving a little bit nicer, newer vehicle. Hopefully they're keeping it nice. So when the resale comes, we're able to maximize profit. Your guys' average holding years is about 6.5 years. So, and that also takes into account some of those older vehicles that probably don't get a lot of use, but you need them when you need them, right? If we move down to the bottom, this also goes along with the age of the vehicle. 75% of the county's fleet is under 50,000 miles, which is awesome. Again, that goes into the reliability of the vehicle, less breakdowns, just overall helps the resale of the vehicles as well. Any questions on the breakdown, just high level of the breakdown of the vehicles?
The little exclamation points on 10 years and older and 150,000 miles and over.
It's one vehicle, so I don't know why that pulled through. I can look into it and get back with you, but it's probably just an anomaly of a vehicle that's a little bit older. So,
But that vehicle that you're citing would be managed under the enterprise system?
yeah, even your guys' owned vehicles, the ones that the county owns, I still manage those. We're a fleet management company. We're not our own vehicle management company. So when I look to sell and hold and give recommendations to the committee, I look at all the vehicles that fall under that.
Okay.
Are the miles, do we track that and just send you a spreadsheet? How are the miles and the years and all that tracked on your end from our end to you?
Yeah. Darren actually has a lady, and I apologize, I can't remember her name. She goes in every other month and updates the mileage, and the mileage comes from your guys' employees here within the county. So,
And our departments report that to, is it Carissa maybe, or?
Yeah, Sheriff's Department takes care of their own mileage just because they're in their vehicles, and Garrett does a great job, and then all the other vehicles go through Chris, and she inputs it into Enterprise's website directly.
Okay.
And just so our community knows that it's just not the miles, there's a lot of idle time, a lot on them vehicles, so that, I know everybody says, we're driving new vehicles. Yes, we're representing, and there's a lot of idle, so.
absolutely. Yeah, idle time is something that's not taken into consideration enough, with the exception of maybe police vehicles. But, before I started working for Enterprise, I worked for Shawnee County, which is based in Topeka, is within that city. And yeah, there is a lot of idle time that it goes into these vehicles as well. Absolutely. Awesome. Just a quick industry update of kind of what's going on in the industry, and this is nationwide, not necessarily local or statewide, but we're actually seeing new vehicle prices come down a little bit, and I wouldn't say that we're seeing it dramatically come down about 5%, but where we are seeing it is just a year ago people were paying MSRP plus to acquire vehicles just because there was such a large demand and not enough supply. So luckily enough, we are seeing that come down, and we are seeing incentives come back as well, which is helping bring down new vehicle cost about 5.6%. In turn, we are seeing the used vehicle, or what we call remarketing, come down as well. So, people that now that new vehicles are available, people are able to buy new vehicles, sell their old vehicles, so that that's helping with the market. We're still up 30%. From pre-COVID numbers. So, as a matter of resale, which, I take into account when I look and buy vehicles, we are still on a very solid ground with resale, and we don't see that going away. There's a very large demand for used vehicles right now. Fuel has remained flat kind of year over year. Did see a little bump in gas, but diesel is down a little bit. Gas was actually down until I pulled this report, which was just, a couple weeks ago, year over year. So, a lot of people are seeing a little bit of relief in their gas budget. On the other hand, maintenance, we're seeing an increase of about 6.5%. We actually saw about 17% increase year over year. So we're up over 20% in a 2-year span on maintenance. Everything's just costing more, including people, oil, filters, all that kind of stuff. We are seeing, we haven't seen this high of interest rate since the 80s. They're trying to hedge off inflation. So they have the interest rate higher, and unfortunately that does play into the lease piece of it, because when you're leasing vehicles, there is an interest rate. And then insurance, we are seeing an uptick in insurance prices, about 11%. It was actually up about 10% last year, so we're up year over year 20% on insurance. So any questions on kind of where the market's at and what the market is doing? Awesome.
Are different vehicles insured? Because you don't handle the insurance, that comes from our umbrella policy for another group, but do we consider that when we're purchasing vehicles, whether a vehicle has a higher insurance premium or not?
Yeah, when we started with the enterprise program, we looked at, it's hard for them to say when we originally started because we didn't know what make and model of year of all the vehicles they were, but we estimated, we're replacing a 15-year-old F-150 with a new F-150, and I don't remember the exact formula that they give on how they create their rating schedule, but we did plan for that. However, as Mr. Owens did say, insurance for K-Camp across the entire state was increased by 25% last year. It was the first increase that they had in many years, but that does play into an account, yes. But it wasn't actually as dramatic from replacing as many old vehicles that we had to begin with, is what I was expecting it to be.
Mm-hmm.
This is just a spend overview, and this is based on averages. So when I say 37 vehicles, that's based on average. But current year, which I pulled from June 2023 to May 2024, your guys' average lease expense was about $381,000, or let's just call it $382,000. Little bit of license and title falls in there, but it's hard to compare because the program's only a couple years old, so it's taking the average from June of 22 to May of 23, which was an average of 16 vehicles. So I can't say that I have good year-over-year data just because the program was so new. The average didn't come out very well, but just kind of wanted to give you guys an idea of your lease spend from June of 23 to May of 24. Any questions on that? Awesome, Darren. I put this slide in there because I kind of wanted to show you guys, we've already talked about it from the first slide, but just in a couple years, you guys have lowered the age of your vehicle by almost 6 years. And that's a huge credit to the committee and to the county and to you guys, approving vehicles, getting newer, safer, more fuel-efficient vehicles, helping reduce the maintenance. So you guys have done that, reduced the age of the vehicle by 6 years. The other thing that helps is resale value, right? A 6-year-old vehicle versus a 3-year-old vehicle, completely different ball games when we're talking about resale. And that's a large piece that I take into account when looking at these vehicles. Incentive savings, so this is savings that I apply for on behalf of Ellis County on the vehicles that we are acquiring. So if we look at the current period, which this one is from January of 23 to December of 23 or January of 24, the average incentive per vehicle was about $3,800, which is good. I'm not going to lie. We saw incentives drop down to 200, 600, even zero at some points in time, depending on the vehicle. But it's a drastic contrast from the incentives from 22 to 23, which we were upwards of $8,000. And the reason we saw the drop is a lack of supply of vehicles. Dealerships and the manufacturers knew that they could sell those vehicles retail for much more than what they could sell to government entities. So, it was a scramble the last, few years just based on COVID and availability, and we had to pivot from, manufacturers. And so, we tried to maximize the incentive we were getting from the manufacturers. And so I'm happy that we got 3,800 because, some other government entities was much less than that. But like I was telling Darren, we should be seeing incentives come back now that dealerships have vehicles to sell, and with interest rates being so high, that's kind of hedging people from going out and buying new vehicles. So, Chevy just came out with their incentives a couple weeks ago. They're not as strong as I would like them to be. We've kind of heard rumors that they may be changing the incentives based on availability and stuff like that. So, I think as we plan for this year and kind of what's going to happen, the good news is we have time. We're not in a rush. I'm not shoving quotes to Darren saying, hey, we got to get these signed, otherwise we're going to lose vehicles. So we can be more strategic in the vehicles that we have incoming and maximize the profits and for the county, maximize the vehicles and what we bring in. So, Commissioners, any questions on incentives or anything along those lines?
Nope.
Want to talk about resale, and again, this is why I'm here, and this is why I look at your guys' vehicles incoming, what you guys have, and it's not just our vehicles, but it's also the vehicles that the county owns. So we sold 3 vehicles since you guys have been on this program, and if you look on the right-hand side, I broke every single one of those out. So if we just start at the top, on the Chevy Traverse, the county paid, let's just call it $28,600. It was in fleet for 12 months. We were able to sell that vehicle for $32,000. So you guys actually netted about $4,178 on the Chevy Traverse. So we sold it for more than what you bought it for. A lot of that came to incentives. On a 2022 Chevy Traverse, the incentives was about $6,000 for government. So we really played into that. Last year, the incentives on a Traverse was $600. So does this play out for 24 model? Unfortunately not, but it played out very well for 22 model. Same with the Ford, both Fords there. I won't go through each one of them, but both of these actually netted money for the county. So net on the 3 vehicles, which is just the amount that sold for what you guys paid for, was about $10,000. Our remarketing team is based on Black Book, Blue Book, and that's how they sell the vehicle, and that's how they get graded. They sold these 3 vehicles for actually 3.8% more than what the average was. So that's how they're graded, based on over remarketing value that they sold for. So I've been super happy with the resale of your guys' vehicles. My goal is to continue to run this as even as possible and hopefully net money for the county. Is that possible in every single aspect? No, but my goal is to reduce the cost as much as possible for the county. Any questions on the resale piece of it? Awesome. This is my last slide. So incentives, and this is going to be from January of 23 to December of 23, so 12 months. Incentives on 28 vehicles came to about $107,000. Again, those are what I apply for on behalf of the county to the manufacturers. You guys are not on our maintenance program, not on our fuel program, but based on the influx of new vehicles versus the deleting of old vehicles, your guys' savings should be about 8% on maintenance. You're not having to put, big item tickets into older vehicles, newer vehicles, cheaper to operate. Fuel, as you guys get newer vehicles in, there's a fuel savings. Newer vehicles get better gas mileage. So again, I did take that into account. I did not put it in this bottom number though. And then resale, 3 vehicles, about 4% above average industry average, excuse me. And that 3% was about $1,200, $1,300. So I just added the resale that I know that we provided and the incentives that I applied for, and that is at least the minimum impact, $120,000, that I believe Enterprise was able to provide for the county on behalf of Ellis County. So
Now, do we make a full purchase, because it's a lease with Enterprise? So when it says that we paid $28,000 for the Traverse, do we actually write a check for that full 28, or do we just make so it's not actually an owned vehicle at that point when it's sold?
It's a leased vehicle, and we make a monthly payment. So when you look at that slide, we paid so much for the vehicle, we pay so much for the lease, and then when Joe takes into account how much it sells, You take how much it sells for, how much is the book value, how much we paid, and that gap is that how much. So on each of those vehicles, we made a couple $1,000s by the time we paid our lease payment, paid the application, the processing fees, and they sell it, and they take, it's like $200 a vehicle to sell it, I believe. We made money on, and those are not just 3 that he picked out. That's the only 3 that have actually, the first 3 that have went through the process of completely leasing, selling, and replacing, and then getting a check back.
Okay.
Yeah, we put it on an amortization schedule. You guys just make monthly payments. It's, I'd say 80% of its depreciation. You know, let's just say 17% of it is interest, and then, 3% of it's a management fee type. And so that's really where your payment goes. So, the county, they're an equity to lease. So you guys own the equity in the vehicle. So again, everything that we would sell that for, goes back to the county. Anything over that we sold it for goes back to the county. Good and bad, right? The way you guys have it set up, you guys are able to get more vehicles for less money because you're putting it on a scheduled payment. You can get 10 vehicles for, let's just say $50,000 versus 1 vehicle for $50,000 if you buy it outright. I have other government agencies that, they're not interested in paying the interest, and so they instead of getting 10 vehicles, they just do 1 or 2 vehicles, and unfortunately. I don't know. It's a double-edged sword, right? Like, you're not paying the interest, but you're also, tying up a lot of money in that asset, the depreciating asset. So,
Okay.
Is our monthly payment then include the contract enterprise then? So so not to be rude, but you're paying, how we pay you
Yeah,
is through that same payment. So when you factor in this enterprise impact, that's already factored in. So the 119 is a true amount. We're not saving this on vehicles and then writing enterprise another check for $100,000 contract or something.
no, sir.
It's built in.
That's factored in. 119,000 is a true amount that I believe that Enterprise has saved Ellis County. And yes, my management fee, or essentially what you pay Enterprise for me to manage your fleet, is built in to that cost previously. So that is that's taken into account prior.
Okay.
Okay.
Their fees are a lot more, or not a lot more. They do a lot more than just manage the fleet. So they look at all the vehicles. They determine when they need to be rotated. That's what we were doing before the meeting here. They analyze, like, all of our F-150s that are 6 to 8 months old right now, are not being recommended to sell because was about 1,500 to 2,000 we would lose per vehicle. So we'd wait another 6 months and see where we would start projected to be break even or making money. The F-250s and the Traverses are all positive right now. The F-250s, I believe, were 12 to 15,000 a piece if we were to sell them or rotate them. So they do all that analysis, and based on what the market's doing, they say this is the point where we need to sell these vehicles at the optimal time to get the most refund. So then every vehicle we sell back, like those 3 that he had mentioned, they send us a check, individual check for each one of those. And then that includes so these are all the first vehicles. All the vehicles that they replaced were all county owned. Those were all the ones that had been selling on Purple Wave. And I believe last year, I think that was about $275,000 in revenue from selling those old vehicles. So it's,
And then that goes, the revenue then, or that 10,000 goes into like reserves for the fleet program then?
so in our Department 97, we
Okay.
have an expense line and a revenue line. So that way it's clear cut. All the vehicles that sell go into a revenue code, and all the expenses go into a lease code. So that way it's easily to see the gains and the revenues and expenses.
Okay. What are the lease, so when we get a new vehicle, because these vehicles are only 12 months, what's the lease terms? Are they 12 months, are they 6 years, or how does that, I mean, if I'm a consumer, usually it's like a 6-year lease, so it's a 6-year lease, but we can resell them at any time during that lease process?
Yeah, you are not locked into a time frame. These original ones were set up for 12 months, but it's the same thing as, what's a good comparison here? I don't know where I was going with that, but let's just say, for example, let's just take the F-250s, the 22s. You know, we would have cycled those last year because you guys would have been net positive on those, but the availability of pickup trucks, especially HD, was almost impossible.
Okay.
Very small incentives. So instead of saying, hey, Darren, let's sell these and give you nothing, let's hold these, so we move those to 24 months. And, you know, let's just say we were in the same time frame as we were a year ago, and I'm like, Darren, I can't get you F-250s right now. We're going to wait. We would just extend those to 36 months and
Okay.
48 months. And that's kind of where I come in. Like, I evaluate every one of your vehicles once, twice a year to see where we're at equity-wise and what makes the most sense. And, you know, if there's a vehicle that's going to lose, you know, money, 10,000, let's just say dollars over the next 12 months, like Darren, it's probably smart to look to sell this one, take the equity out of it, and get into a newer one.
Okay.
All of the normal fleet vehicles that you see like out in the parking lot, the white ones, the public works, those are all essentially on a 1-year term. The sheriff's office and 2 in EMS, those are all 5-year terms, basically because of the upfitting for the sheriffs, the cages, the lights, all that equipment, 4-year lease, I'm sorry. So that way it costs us like $9,000-$10,000 a vehicle to upfit. So if you were to do that every year, it didn't make financial sense. So we spread out the lease on those.
Okay.
And all the other vehicles are on that 1-year lease though.
Okay.
And then another big thing that they do is not only when it's time to order, they look at the incentives of each line item, like spray-in bed liners is a good option to add for resale. And then they work to make sure that says, well, we should order this level of trim because it's going to have this much of an impact on the resale compared to just doing the bare bone work truck that's not going to have as much of a resale value. And then they confirm everything that's ordered right on the vehicle, then they place the orders for us, and all we do is just do a DocuSign for that replacement. So our staff isn't spending all that time going through that process of last couple of years. Some of those vehicles were in like a 2 or 3 day window of being able to order, whereas now Joe was telling me maybe 8 months. So we wouldn't have been able to probably even order the vehicles in the last couple of years to begin with.
So Enterprise is maximizing the impact of the vehicles that we have, but minimizing our financial impact.
Yes.
Okay. I'm good with that, and I appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah, you know, guys, I'm just a farm boy from Topeka and paid my way through college, and I'm passionate about it, and I enjoy looking at this. I'm a very numbers person, and so I appreciate the county, letting me do this for you guys.
I know when when the commission had looked into this, it was always almost too good to be true, but it's working. But I guess I did learn something that I didn't know, that you monitored that closely on miles and that kind of stuff. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, data is what tells me what to do, when to do it, and to advise the county on the best time to that'll occur. And so, yeah, again, it's just numbers and for me, but at the end of the day, it's taxpayers' dollars for you. So,
Absolutely.
Clarification too, when Joe said that we are not in the maintenance or the fuel program, explanation for that is because we are on the WEX program, WEX cards, which saves us the fuel tax and everything on that, which Janet in HR monitors with all of that. And then the maintenance, because of all the vehicles being on a 1-year term, there's really not a lot of maintenance that goes into those on the turnaround. So on some of them, we may have 1, maybe 2 oil changes in that 1-year term. So the price of a short-term lease with the amount of maintenance that would go into it didn't make us sense to pay them the maintenance fees for them to track everything and get into their government cooperative of where we can take the vehicles to get better pricing. And then the sheriff office has a program with a couple local dealership or mechanics that give them very good pricing on their vehicles as well, even though they're longer term, that it still made sense to stay out of those, the maintenance and the fuel programs.
Okay. Very good. Thank you for the explanation on those.
Awesome. Any more questions? Guys, I really appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And I'll come out anytime and present to you guys whenever you guys would like. So thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Appreciate you coming out.
Thank you, Bobby.
Darren, while we're on vehicles, maybe tell the public, so what have we done with the hail damage?
So still working through it. K-Camp came out. We put 58 vehicles through the fire bay to get adjusted.
Okay.
And individual departments have then also went out and gotten quotes for all those vehicles at local auto body dealerships to get repaired. We're still waiting on the analysis back. The crews the two people that were here from the hired company from K-Camp, they had a process, basically the I-70 corridor of when that hailstorm came through, and then they had a trip down to Texas that we're going to take them on a whole bunch of adjusting of vehicles. The following week, I believe, which would have been not last week, the week before, they sent another large, K-Camp sent another company out that they contract with for large loss for vehicles, or for buildings, and they went through, we gave them the reports that we had. However, when they were here, they went through every single, they took our schedule from K-Camp, they went through to every single building, and we have not got that report back as well. We were out at the Speedway, or the fairgrounds last week, and Roof Masters noticed some damage out there, so that was not reported. So we're waiting on K-Camp. We're kind of at their mercy. There's nothing that's not drivable or not safe to be driven. It's just the process for K-Camp to determine that, say, vehicle A, they say there's $1,000 in damage, but the dealership says there's $4,000 in damage. Once we get K-Camp's version back and there's a discrepancy, they have to be reevaluated to say, yeah, there is $4,000, or no, there's not, but this would be the only amount that they would pay, or they will change their adjustment amount, and so still going through that process.
Well, we're gonna wait through the rest of the summer before we work on getting vehicles in case we have another hailstorm come.
They
through.
do allow that, yes. They're somewhat appreciative of that. If we fix them and it gets another hailstorm, we still only pay, our deductible is $1,000. So we had 58 vehicles, it's $1,000. Not like for a normal person, it's $1,000 for all 58. So we're not paying $58,000 in deductibles. But if we say that there's, like the sheriff had said, we're going to keep some from not getting fixed because they're out in it, K-Camp is fine with that as well. It saves them money, it saves us time and loss of vehicle time being out on the roads.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
But as soon as I know more, I'll bring it to the commission and give an update on where we're at.
Sounds good. Thank you. Okay. Next, we have inmate housing contract with the city of Ellis.
Scott Brown, Ellis County Sheriff.
Morning.
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 I'm assuming you all had a chance to look that over and you saw that Ellis has agreed to it. The contract that was proposed to him, the change of $100 for housing of inmates for them through the municipal side, and then $45 for the processing fee if they did. They had some minor changes that they worked through with Mr. Jeter, and he looked at it and I looked at it, and we thought it looked pretty good. And so I went ahead and had Mr. Jeter sign it, and myself, as the contract says we can sign on behalf of the commissioners. But the next process would be that you guys accept the contract, and then it would become in effect. Mr. Jeter, did I leave anything else out?
Bill Jeter, County Councilor. I don't think so. It's been a work in progress, and
Yes.
and I think one of our goals is to get a document together whenever the city moves out of the law enforcement center. This would be an agreement which would replace the current LEC lease.
And I have not approached the city of Victoria, which I was going to ask if you guys wanted me to go over and present this current one that we have and have them sign the same one so it's consistent across the county. So none of them veer from any one other, and we can keep track a lot easier, if that's what you'd like me to do.
I think that would
That'd be good.
sense.
This is what Hayes, then the city of Hayes also has the same?
Yes, they do not have it as of yet because we're out about, what, a year, 2 years almost, probably. So I haven't presented this to them way early.
Okay.
So once we get close and the commission would like me to present this to them, I'm happy to do so.
Okay.
And is this contract for that yearly, you reevaluate it yearly, or how does it?
It's a review yearly, and if there should be a change in it, I would give notification to Ellis and Victoria and the city of Hayes that in due time that they could put that money into their budget. And so I think we have it in June, I believe. I think it is, it reads. And I would make contact and send a letter that there is no change or there will be a change in it, and forward it to them. So that way they have plenty of notification. We could do it earlier because I think they're a little bit ahead of us on the budget process, the city of Hayes, but I think they'll end up about the same time. My guess is we won't see much of a change for many, many years, but we will keep them apprised of that.
Okay. I'm good with that.
Okay.
That's good with me.
Okay.
Well, I'll move to adopt the City of Ellis inmate housing agreement.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you. Okay, next we have the undersheriff job description and pay change.
Commissioners, Ellis County Sheriff, Scott Brown. So before you, you have it's kind of a working, between Darren and I, we sat down and discussed this several different times. During our time in reviewing, we found that there was a discrepancy and there was a problem with what the undersheriff was receiving. And so we consulted with the Arnold Group and found that we should probably move him so that way we don't have a issue with the lieutenant who could make more than the undersheriff. And so based on that, we're asking that we move the undersheriff to that next step, which would be the 35. And in addition to that, which is another portion of it, in discussing it with the undersheriff, and I've always wondered why my undersheriff wasn't salaried, because it's most sheriffs across the state of Kansas, I think, in fact, almost all of them that I spoke to, their undersheriff is salaried, because it gives them the freedom, the undersheriff, to come in and flip-flop hours, and because they're on call, much like I am all of the time. After speaking with our current undersheriff, he doesn't have an issue with that, moving to a salaried position. And with the move of that to that 35, that will offset some of that cost, or give him a raise. And typically you see that with a salaried position, that they get a little bit of a bump because of the additional time that they're going to spend and may not be able to take off. So I think I've covered everything. Maybe Darren has something to add to this. I don't know.
That's pretty much how I would have said it. It was
Okay.
just to correct the
Yeah.
inequity of the two positions, which was found after we started looking into it a little bit more. And we've worked with HR, and moving that position meets the criteria to be able to move to an exempt status from not having overtime.
Okay. And this just keeps along with the updates that we did back at the beginning of the year.
That's correct. Yes.
It was just something that we didn't overlook the exempt status. We overlooked the pay scale based on the jail lieutenant. They're all sworn officers.
Correct.
But the department heads and their number two positions didn't have any multipliers. So when you look very simply at the pay scale, the jail lieutenant is a 33, the undersheriff was a 34, so the 34 is always going to be paid higher. But when you add the multiplier on, since they're not a department head, that multiplier made the jail lieutenant make more, step by step equal,
Okay.
paid more. And that's where it was, that's where we found it. And then the overtime was a secondary discussion since we were making the changes, is do we make it now or maybe later when the undersheriff would retire in the coming, I believe,
5
the end of the
months.
year.
Yeah, December 1st.
Okay.
So with that, we just, like the sheriff said, he visited with the undersheriff and he was okay with it. And we'll just make the changes now if the commission would approve it.
Okay.
That way we don't bring it back again just for this,
Yeah.
something that we know that would get done eventually anyway.
Gotcha. Any questions or comments?
I have none.
Okay.
I move to approve the attached job description for the undersheriff effective June 23rd pay period.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
All right. And if I could, I would like to bring up another topic. I look
Yes,
back,
sir.
I wasn't here on the 11th, which would have been 2 weeks ago at the commission, and you had asked about coming up with a plan of where we're going to go with potential additional staffing.
Oh,
And,
yeah.
and so I'd like to address that if I may. So for the sheriff's office, currently, as you know, I've proposed combining the 2 part-time positions that I'm using right now and turning that into a full-time. That would be the only position that I would really ask for. And I know that budget restraints may change that, but I understand that. In addition to anyone else, originally we were looking at 12-hour shifts, as Darren had brought up during that. Because we're going to have so many changes within the next, 5 months or so, 6 months roughly, I don't think it's a good decision to ask for additional staff at this point in time, because we would need to ask for additional specifically for the jail and the 12-hour shifts. I know that there are other agencies or departments within the county that are needing them, such as EMS and the Road and Bridge. And so what I would ask is that, just keep in mind that in 2026, I may be in front of you commissioners asking for additional if we should move to that 12-hour shift. But I would respectfully ask that you provide those guys the needed help that they need. And in due time, we'll discuss what the sheriff's office needs. So for right now, I have no intentions of trying to add anyone, okay?
Okay, thank you. Sheriff, since you're up there, I do want to ask you about, in your departmental report, the jail. Mm-hmm. Probably the lowest population I've
Yes.
seen since I've been paying attention.
And I really don't know what's going on.
Okay?
I am not complaining by any means, but that is, I don't know that I've seen that in 5 to 6 years, those numbers. One of the plus sides is commissioners, now that we've also adopted the $100, because that's our going rate, KDADS is now paying $100, and the commission will receive back into their budget about 30, I'm doing math in my head, so about $28,000 back that was in a previous budget that will roll back into the commissions, into the general, because I can't go into our current one, as you know. And the sheriff's office will receive about $16,000 into this year's budget that they're paying for a competency evaluation. That inmate has been in our jail over 400 days within our facility, and so we will receive some compensation on that. So that's a good thing. With the increase that they'll pay our daily rate. In regards to the low numbers, super excited about it. I don't know that we should get used to that. We will have some changes within the prosecution. We'll have some changes within judges. So those could come into play. I'm not saying they will, but at that point in time, if they do, if judges and the prosecutors want them to stay in the jail, they will stay longer. But I know that I've spoken with the judges, and they're trying to keep the numbers down, and so they've done a very good job about that. If we could just do something about medical bills, it'd be a lot better. But they all have medical issues within our facility, and that's really what's trying for us. We routinely go to the hospital on a regular basis. So, but yes, you're right. They're really low. 50, 48, 47, 53, which allows us to manage. I will tell you, though, we are housing out of county right now some females because we just don't, the facility's not quite big enough, so we are housing 3 out of county right now. Eventually, we'll get those moved back once our female population drops, but for right now, we have to house those out. So, hate to say it, but it's a cost of doing business, as we all know. So,
Okay.
But thanks for asking.
Thank you for explaining those.
Yeah.
And I would like to compliment you on you and your staff, your patrolling. You're doing a good job, and not only the sheriff's department, but all of our employees are
Thank you.
doing a great job. So,
I'll relay that to them.
okay,
Thank you.
I
We
appreciate
got a
that.
road
So-
closure. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can announce, yes, so those that are listening, we will have a road closure today due to blowing snow, I almost said. It's actually dust. That's normally what we're doing. In the, between 140th and 150th Avenue, which would be the 500 block of Ellis Avenue. County crews have set up the signs, and I've got my guys out there directing traffic to make sure that they don't go around. So we can plan on that until we get some rain. I'm guessing that won't be shut down. So also, I might add, I would not be surprised if I-70 doesn't start having those problems like they did yesterday over in Trigo County and just outside of Ellis County line. So please drive carefully, and if you can't see through it, you shouldn't drive through it, okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff. Okay, next we have Tiger Tags and Escrow Program.
Morning, Commissioners. Darren Myers, County Administrator. Your next item on your agenda is just some kudos to our Treasury Department. Vern didn't want to pat himself on the back much, our County Treasurer, so I figured we could do it for him. But our Ellis County Treasurer's Office received a letter from the President of Fort Hays State giving appreciation to the Treasury for promoting the Fort Hays State Tiger Tags that you see on vehicles. As you can see within the letter, with Vern's effort, they've increased the amount of sales of those tags by over 30-some percent in the last couple of years. And what that does is that money goes back to Fort Hays State to provide scholarships, which the amount was also in the letter, as you can see. So Vern has been very big supporter of Fort Hays State and promotes it and tries to get people to enroll into that program, which in turn helps students attend Fort Hays State, which is a good program. The second part of that is paying for the tags, your personal property, your mortgage taxes and all that. As Vern had talked to you in the past, is to try to grow the county's escrow program. And what that is getting out, talking to businesses, Hays Medical Center, City of Hays, Hess Services, whoever, getting out and getting potential maybe some payroll deductions from those employees that send it to the county, or just having them directly pay a monthly ACH transfer from their account to Ellis County. And maybe it's 10, 20, 30 bucks a month that goes into an escrow account for them within Ellis County. So that way, when their taxes are due, they have that money sitting there being collected through the entire year to pay those, and it's a lot easier for those individuals. That helps with our delinquency as well for the county. But having that money in the county is beneficial to the employees, but then also the Treasury can invest those monies and return revenue to the county to help offset property taxes. And that has grown by about $400,000 since the beginning of this year. So Vern, everybody knows Vern, but like I say, I think this is a lot of good work. These are some of the things that Vern has been working on and his staff. So great job to them. I just wanted to share that with the commission and with the public.
Well, I do appreciate that. Thank you, Vern.
Thank you.
Vern, thank you.
Very good.
A lot of hard work, and I appreciate what you've been able to accomplish. So. Okay. Next, we have our 2025 commission budget.
As the commission can see, as we're into the budget process, one of the items for consideration, not necessarily for an answer, is I just wanted to separate the county commission budget out for the commission to look at, as that is the commissioner's budget. But give you the chance, I sent out an email as well for the overall 2023 expenditures out of your budget. So that way you can see for a full year what those line items actually pay for. The two biggest items here for just for notation is the rural opportunity and the scholarship line items were one of the biggest changes. So two updates there from the information provided to me from the commission was that in doing the scholarships, there was some a little bit of concern from the public in regards to using property taxes to do the scholarships. So with the change next year, when we do those scholarships, there is a revenue line item in the commissioner's budget from sales tax. So that way it shows the 100% funding of the or the sales tax to pay for the scholarships. The other is the second year of doing the Rural Opportunity Zone, or the ROS program, which is the economic incentives to get people to move to Ellis County for either income taxes being reimbursed from the state, or a financial state or finances given to pay the student loans off of those individuals. I don't have a lot of information yet. The county clerk and I were notified on Friday and had some correspondence back yesterday. We put in 15,000 for RAWs. Just on Friday, the Department of Commerce notified us and that they're going to give us 10,000 to help market it and not necessarily offset the expense, but to have some funds that we may be able to incentivize moving to Ellis County a little bit more. So I asked for some guidance. It's very new to them. We didn't know about it at all until we get the email. So we will get some funding to help market that and do some more things with that. So as soon as I get that, I'll share that guidance from to the commission in case that sparks any interest of what you may want to do as well.
So Darren, with that being said, with that 10,000, should that come in under our revenue line? Because I know I see the RAWs line item is nearly doubled.
It'll just go in and so it's this year's expense, and it's gonna, I don't know when we'll get it yet. And like I say, I don't know so that it'll come in 2024's budget. It won't impact, and we don't know if we'll even get it for 2025. So depending on when we get it and what we spend it on, if we do, radio ads not a good, because everybody around us is a rural opportunity zone too. So doing a radio ad to promote it ain't going to do any good. But
Right.
It's basically going to almost be a reimbursement. So if we spend $10,000 on a radio ad, which I'm not saying we do, we would get the $10,000 to offset that expense. So it would just,
Okay.
whatever we would choose it for. If we get it for next year, there's no information that we would. If they do tell us that they'll give us 10,000 back, there would be an update to your budget with another revenue code in there for $10,000 to offset that. But then we'd probably have to put in an expense item in there for advertising as well.
Okay.
And then the other option for consideration, which I know has been brought up in the past, was with the completion of the pay study for the entire, all the county employees, was to put the commissioners on a scale as well. And so what I did was I picked the starting salary of a pay grade that equated out the closest I could get to the current commission salary. And by doing that, obviously the commission doesn't work a 40-hour week, so it was just trying to finagle the numbers to get it close. It was within a few dollars of that annually. So then every year after that, as every employee, no matter if it's appointed, elected, or regular staff, when they move one step, the commission would move one step, 100% of all the employees, except for, all the employees except for any contractual employees would move. The contractual employees get the COLA adjustment if there is one awarded. So that was a very minimal impact, but is something for you to at least consider. Don't need an answer obviously today, but as you go through the budget process, that's something that we can continue to discuss, or if you want me to take it out now and have it updated by our July budget hearings, I can do that as well.
Well, I'm good with leaving it in there. And the reason I will say that is we've instituted this study for all the employees within the county. And I think just as good faith to put us on the same scale, the same structure is what we are advising our employees to do.
Yeah, at this point, would like to continue to consider it, so I'd leave it in there until we, work through our finalized budget, but I kind of am of the same opinion. All official, all employees, but also all our elected officials at this time are on that thing, and so I think elected officials include the county commission. I also think it eliminates future where county elected commissioners would potentially have to decide if they want to give themselves a pay raise. So I think being on a pay scale like this clarifies it to the public as well. So I at least want to continue to consider it. On the RAWs, I guess, how much have we we've set aside 15,000 for it for this year. How much have we expended out of that? Because again.
So to date, none. We've got, I think there's 3 confirmed. I think there's 2 in the process. So we're 5 out of the 10, potentially halfway through the year. At the end of September or maybe in October, I don't remember, but the state will invoice us.
Okay.
If we have 10, they'll invoice us for the 1,500 times 10 for that 15,000. If we only have 5, they'll only invoice us for the 7,500 at the end of the year.
So if we only have 5, then my understanding, when we go to the budget though, we won't have to budget 15, that'll lower by, so right now we're putting the 15,000 in because we don't know if we'll get to
Expectation,
10,
hopefully,
but
that we'll get-
whatever number we end up, if we don't get the full 10, we'll actually reduce the budget for that amount.
Yes,
So
sir.
we'll add, at this time in our budget, we're considering putting 10 more available next year. So it'd be those 10 new for 2025 plus, let's just say 5 this year
And-
is how the budget will adjust.
Correct, and the amount is not set at a cap of 10, so I'm not suggesting it, but if the commission wanted to do 100, you could put
Yeah.
150,000 in there.
Yeah,
Or if you only did 5 this year, you could say, you could do 15 next year, and it would still say, but then if you continue to have more, you're committed to that for that
yeah.
multiple years.
I guess my only consideration at this time, I'm just kind of mulling out loud, is I don't want to see the gap of the RAWs and the scholarships get to. I mean, right, it's 15 and 10, but next year it potentially could be 30, 20. I'd prefer it to be relatively even, or even the scholarships take the lead at some point. I'm more interested in getting the scholarships funded. And so that's just kind of my consideration for maybe the other commissioners as we look at that. I don't want to, if you keep going and going, the year after it'd be 45,000 and 30,000. So to me, I don't want that gap to, unless we see real success, but I think the RAWS is doing what we kind of thought it would do. I think we're getting some. I don't know if we'll get the full 10. So if we don't, then I probably would not say we need 10 more next year. So.
Do you want to keep the 10 new ones for next year, but if we only have 5 for this year, so you'd only have 15 total for next year?
Maybe,
Still?
or if we just we keep the 5 that we have, and maybe next year we only allot 5 more instead of allotting 10 more, or whatever. It might be part of the conversation we have with like Grow Hayes and the city of Hayes and what they're doing with theirs, and this 10,000 marketing money, and so. But I think there's some things to consider there is how many we want to do, and if we want to do more on scholarships or not. So, or look at other programs. We kind of looked at another program. I've kind of brought up another idea to Darren yesterday on just other economic incentive programs that are out there. I don't think we can do them all, so we kind of have to measure each one. So,
Okay. Any comments?
I'd be in agreement too with do the 5 and just keep it that way for now.
Yeah, I can make a final, come August, when the final budget is before the commission. It's only 2 months away already, hard to believe, but I can confirm what we have with the state, and then we can lower that amount to whatever we do have approved at that point.
yeah, I think that would work.
I don't want to de-incentivize anybody from coming from out of town or out of county. However, I do think an emphasis on growing our county from within through our scholarships and promoting the people that we currently have is maybe a little bit better option than inviting new people in. Like I said, I'm not going to disincentivize anybody from coming. However, let's take care of our homegrown first. So Okay. All right, well, we'll consider that for our future discussions on our budget. Moving on, we'll have county administrator report.
I have nothing this morning.
Okay. Commissioners reports. Mr. Burgess?
We got a thank you from, speaking of scholarships, we did get a thank you personally from one of the recipients to us, so I appreciate that, that they acknowledge that we have helped them on their education journey. That's all I got.
Okay. Mr. Younger?
I did attend the Northwest Kansas Corrections and Juvenile meeting. Then I also did attend the Fort Hays State Presidential Gala. Everybody's talking about scholarships. There was an individual down there, I can't recall what his name was. The scholarships are meaning a lot to a lot of the people, meaning people and their children. So without those, he would not, and he got a music degree. Without those, he said he wouldn't been able to do what he done. He thanked everybody. So scholarships, yes, everybody's talking about them. Like I say, we've done it for several years, almost 15 years. I feel it's important to keep and continue to do that for everyone. So that's all I have.
Okay. Well, I attended the Workforce One committee that I'm on. We had our annual meeting. For those who may not know, with Workforce One, it helps provide training and stuff for people who are looking. All I can say is there's so many programs out there. If somebody wants to work, that place will help them find work. So there's programs to find boots, clothes, work attire, job training. So no matter your state, they've got a way to help you find employment. So that's all I have then. So I guess with no executive sessions, we will adjourn at 9:32.